Lovely ball across Totland. Ostrak! Sensational!
You switch the play. That allows everyone to shift. So now you play the opposite side channel. Then you let your players go to work. Thomas Ostrak does incredibly well. Well done by Totland. As the back line retreats in that moment, it allows Ostrak to take a touch, step through the ball, and look at the bend. It hits off the inside of...
And despite the Colorado Rapids' valiant defensive effort for 70 minutes after the red card to defender Rob Holding, the Rapids go down in St. Louis 1-0. And, man, you had to feel bad, especially after the effort. 12 minutes in, you know, it's a punch in the gut, right? For the Rapids and just for the game. And you're like, oh, man, on the road, Rapids haven't been very good on the road, and now they got to play this game a man down. Hopefully we can get some chances and get enough to maybe, you know, get a draw or get out of there with a 1-0 victory. And, you know, with the existential dread that comes with being a man down for such a long time. Coach Wells said it after the game and even in the midweek press conference that they do, that, you know, the effort was there. The heart was there for the Rapids, and it took an amazing goal off the post, off the inside of the post even, across the goal, and it hit the side netting, you know, and those are always the most amazing goals, because if you can hit the side, you know, from any direction, from a corner kick, you know, from a free kick, and from it would have been the left side of the box, looking from the attacking side, to hit the post and in, and it sucks for the Rapids to go down that way in St. Louis, 1-0. But onward and upward for the Rapids, and they start a 3-game homestand beginning this weekend on Colorado Day, 150th anniversary of the great state, the C38, obviously Centennial 38th state in the Union. I am Don Pablo. This is Rapids Rant. Thank you for listening while I take you through the MLS regular season 2026 edition, the 30th for the Colorado Rapids. You can find more about us on Blue Sky, on YouTube, and on Twitch. I go live on those services doing this show. Then I post it. I cut up and maybe edit it a little bit, post it on Spotify and all the podcasting services for you to, you know, take your 30-minute drive, maybe on a Saturday, maybe on a Friday night. Sometimes I get to do them on the Thursdays and get you out there for your Friday morning commute. Didn't happen this week, but yeah, like I said, I am Don Pablo. Thanks for listening and engage with us in those ways. Coming up on the show today, and I take things more of a macro level, a big picture. Obviously, there's some big news out of the MLS. Darren Garber, maybe an end date for him. Maybe they're figuring out who the new commissioner is. I don't think any announcements for that are imminent, according to the Athletic article from Tenario and Bogert. We'll talk about the upcoming Rapids 3-game homestand here, pretty much the first 3 weeks of August, with a little Leagues Cup break in between. Some thoughts and another story from my World Cup trip. Some short thoughts. Maybe one from the gym. Maybe one from the impact Messi has had on the MLS. And I might bloviate about that for 10, 15 minutes. But I try to keep them short here. I try to keep them 30 minutes average commute for Denver, Colorado, in the traffic mess that happens around here sometimes. Or all the time. I don't know. I was in New Mexico, and my uncle was saying, man, there's traffic today, and we got from one side of the city to the other in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, what traffic? What? This is zero. This is zero to where I am, and I'm sure there's worse places than Denver. I've been in LA, and when my friend, you know, Kevin was talking about, well, we'll get to this place, and he listed 5 highways you had to get on to get to that place, and I'm like, I can remember 3 maybe at the most, but 5. I need a. I don't even think series that fast if you have to use 5 highways to get somewhere. Anyway, talking about the Rapids loss in St. Louis this past weekend. I thought they were going to have more offensive chances, and they didn't really have much before the red card happened, and then they, batten down the hatches defensively after that. But man, I had my hopes up. I had my hopes up for a draw. I said it when I was posting on Blue Sky, and obviously, I thought the best we could hope for, 5 minutes after the red card was a draw. I was getting my hopes up. 75th minute, we made some subs, and it was just it was an amazing goal by St. Louis, and the traditional offensive, attack was not working for St. Louis, and they just caught the play at the right time and put one in off the inside of the post. I thought, I don't know, maybe the Rapids can get 1 or 2 more chances. It just didn't work out for them on the night. Obviously, the Rapids were disappointed, going back down to 13th place. And first of all, playing Austin this week, who is in 14th. So it's a must win, and hopefully it is they're going to win. Austin comes to town. I called them one of the best supporters, traveling supporters in the league. A couple of years ago, San Diego did pretty good. I like their colors and their flag. They had giant flags over there. That was cool for them when they came in a couple of weeks ago and lost to the Rapids in the last minute goal. But I want to see Austin if they travel with their people when they're in 14th place in the MLS. But I look forward to this weekend's match, and Rapid. I swear they're going to get. I swear we're going to see 3 or 4. They're going to break out. If not this week, then in a couple weeks when Kansas City comes to town, and then ahead of the big matchup against LAFC, who the Rapids always play well against at home. And I expect another, they're going to, that might even be a must win then too, because the 3-game homestand, they need to get some points from here. They're going to get some rest, 2 weeks off after this for the League's Cup break. And then, Kansas City obviously not participating in the League's Cup, but LAFC is. So hopefully we can catch them on the end of a big, tired spell for them, because they're going to need to, go to their depth for that midweek Rapids match in Colorado after they, LA's going to have to travel all over the place. So we'll see what happens. Then the Rapids will be obviously getting ready for their big U.S. Open Cup semifinal here in a couple weeks. But I don't know. It's happening on the season. Also, they signed a midfielder from Belgium, Josef Maziz. We'll see how he slots in. I don't know if he's going to play Saturday night against Austin, but give him a couple weeks practice and maybe against Kansas City or LAFC, see how he comes in with his offensive mindset for the Colorado Rapids. I'm excited for that, but let's get to some more meat of the show. Obviously, this is Rapid Rant. I'm Don Pablo. Thanks for listening. And a big article came out this weekend after during the All-Star break in the All-Star game. And it was the MLS, after they've changed the schedule, obviously to be world soccer schedule with the starting in August games and ending in early May. They already have the international breaks that they kind of gone after the last couple of years, but now, and I think been talking about, they changed the collective bargaining agreement here a couple of years ago. Now they're going to the world schedule now, and I think it's a part of the owners and the new owners coming, and maybe they want to spend some money, and that's a positive thing. And they want to change the whole entire collective bargaining agreement to actually be able to spend more money, which is a positive. And what Tenario and Bogert were suggesting is the MLL Board of Governors met, and the competition committee, they want to change the rules of the rosters to get rid of TAM, and they're still going to have DPs, but they want to get rid of TAM and, forgive me, they're going to call it MLS 3.0. And part of the schedule change is that. And it will be, a change of the roster. So they're going to actually spend more money. So, general allocation money is the other one. That's what I thought it was. But so it'll be more money. It'll raise the salary cap because every team's allowed to have the big signings right now, right? And then the rest of the salary cap kind of limits what they can spend on the rest of the players. And you could trade your designated player slots, which would, kind of makes it advantage for the bigger clubs, the clubs that are willing to spend crazy money, monopoly money at that point. But it's more for the middle of the pack free agents. It's more for the middle of the pack guys, and I think that's a positive. And obviously, if you're going to get people overseas, you're going to get the foreigners. But I think the way that it'll benefit guys in the league now is if you come up through the United States, if you come up through the domestic, even college programs, and you go to the MLS, and maybe you can get some money that way. You can, because I've been talking about it earlier, in NIL in college, and there's still soccer college players, and they get NIL money too, right? So maybe they're getting more, maybe stay in school, right? And if these players stay in school, maybe they get paid more money, plus they get their degree. Is it more viable to do that than go to the MLS? MLS can't pay them as much, and I'm not saying it's every college player. I'm saying maybe the stars, maybe the big names, and maybe those guys will want to go to the MLS, or some will stay in school, make their NIL money, and get a degree, right? Then maybe get drafted to the MLS and do their thing. And they have the under 22 initiative that will kind of change. And Generation Adidas players, if what I was reading was correct, they don't even, the clubs, MLS clubs don't even pay for Generation Adidas players. It's a league-wide money pot that they get paid from. But if you want to look at it this way, the under 22 initiative is when you're an MLB player and you come up through the minor leagues, when you get to MLB time, you can have arbitration, and you're tied to that team. So if you're actually out playing your contract, you go to arbitration. Then a independent judge or arbitrator, you bring your case, the team brings their case, and if you are valued more, then the arbitrator said you get this much. And I don't know if the MLS is gonna play that, but it's a way for baseball players to make more money. Wait for the agent, and by the way, it benefits the agents, it benefits the players. If you outperform your contract, or you're tied to these teams anyway. But then eventually MLB players get free agency, and you can go up from there, whatever the market value is for baseball players. But if you apply the same to MLS, which who knows what the collective bargaining agreement is going to be. But if the way they're proposing it, though, is the salary cap's going to go up. Also, they need a salary floor, which there's going to be a lot of talk about that when Major League Baseball collective bargaining agreement and comes up at the end of this year. And, it's weird, but I've been seeing advertisements on TikTok that you need a salary cap. And I'm like, man, this is not, why are they advertising that on TikTok? That's crazy to me. And even if my wife and my sister have seen it, they don't care 2 bits about that kind of thing. And I'm like, if they're seeing these ads, these advertisements, they're really going after general public and everybody about a salary cap in Major League Baseball, which I think is wrong, and they shouldn't do it at all costs. But I think, since the MLS already has it, raising it will be beneficial for all the players that are out of that U22 initiative, and they come in through that. And if you're in college and you get the NIL, and I was talking about that, I think it was last year or earlier this year, is what if these colleges pay more money than you would make in the MLS? Then it would, stay in school. Obviously, you want the life of, studying and not necessarily putting towards soccer 24/7, but you take it, you'll take that money, be happy over there. I mean, these college stars are probably not buying Ferraris like Deion Sanders' kids or CU NIL guys getting that Saudi money. But that's something to think about. But if MLS does this and they raise the salary cap for these guys and those kids, and maybe they get their education that way, and obviously there's a lot of opportunities for soccer players to be coaches and work their way up after their playing careers are over. But I think it's a positive to, and it has to be, for raising the salary cap. And as I was talking about earlier this year, why it's beneficial for your salary to be out and made publicly available. But that was a story in a 10-minute jag that I went on, I don't know, 2-3 months ago. So if that happens, MLS 3.0, and they said it was going to happen, and the commissioner was even quoted as saying, it's not just maybe it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I'm going to try to find that quote here really quickly. Oh, and I was talking about, they were talking about the next media deal, although the current one still has 2 years and it's not going to end until June 2028. So a couple years for that after Apple. But if they're already talking about that, I think that Apple is not going to have it. And I talked about it earlier this year that they need to, and overall need to bring in more of the Hispanic eyes to watch it, and them not going to Apple TV, not necessarily. And I understand that Apple TV has a Spanish version, but I don't know how many Hispanic people even go, and it's anecdotal for me to ask people and see what they do. But I think that doing the Leagues Cup, which is going to Mexico this year, and seeing those teams and having another competition for Liga MX to get their eyes on down there, and starting the rivalries, Inter Miami, although Inter Miami's playing all their games at home this year, but getting those rivalries going between MLS and Liga MX, that's only going to help. Getting it off of Apple TV, maybe on Netflix, that's a huge, it's way bigger than, I understand Apple is a bigger company, but Netflix has more eyeballs and more content that you don't have to, that you have one payment a month to pay for, rather than paying for every single episode of every single TV show and stuff like that. So that's coming up. And MLS 3.0, and this is from the article in The Athletic, it's a must do. It's not a maybe do, MLS Commissioner Don Garber told The Athletic. So it's going to happen, I'm pretty sure, because the owners are on his side. He works for them. So I don't know who he's convincing to not raise the salary cap, or who he's convincing to try to, get on his side. But it sounds like it's going to happen, which is a positive for, I'm going to say for everybody, really, because it's going to raise your salary. It's going to get more eyeballs. And in the future, whoever takes over as MLS commissioner and gets that next TV deal, because as I say all the time, the TV money is the ball game. The TV money is where the teams make their profit. Obviously, you want playoff game. It's playoff games and TV money. That's the ball game, right? So that's just how it is. I don't know, but I'm glad, and I think it started with Messi. It started with, and I made it. Obviously, there's been a lot of comparisons to when Pele came over in the 1970s. to the New York Cosmos in the USL, right? NASL, excuse me, the NASL, North American Soccer League. Sorry, I get stuck. Anyway, so it was that, but this is the realization. It's what that should have been. This MLS 2.0 is what Pele coming to the North America in the 70s should have been, right? They've already grown the league, and thanks to Don Garber, and I realize he has his haters. Nobody's a fan of what any business person does, totally, right? What any of these giant companies do, and MLS is a giant company. But Don Garber, I would say, for his 28 years out of the, or 27 years out of the 30 years of MLS, he's taken it, he's grown it, 30 markets, did have to contract some teams, Chivas USA, 2 Florida teams. Now they're back in Florida. The second LA team is doing really well. They expanded into Southern California. Maybe I heard maybe there's going to be 2 more teams, but that's speculation. And 2 more teams, 32 would be awesome. When they said they didn't really want to move past 20, now they got 30. We'll see what happens there. So he's done that. He's getting these CBAs done. Obviously, getting more money to the players. That's a positive. I don't know if the commissioner and the union, and by the way, there's a union now, so that's a positive. Promotion relegation, I mean, forget about it. That's never happening. So unless they have their own minor league, but that's never happening. So I don't even. Yeah, it's a non-starter, man. I don't even know, like, just the way the United States sets up their leagues and the antitrust, judgments they have against, anti-monopoly. They're all monopolies, so it doesn't matter. I'm not spending any more time talking about that. So that's not happening. But from where he is now, from where they started, 30 clubs, it's big. They're getting games on TV. They still have weekly games, which is good. The YouTube reach is doing okay. They're now, the Mexico Leagues Cup thing, and I think that it should be the Don Garber Trophy for that, really, if that was their idea, because on top of Champions Cup doesn't have the reach of Leagues Cup now, and Leagues Cup is going to be like the preseason kind of tournament thing here at next year, going into 2027, and that's going to be awesome. It's going to be the first time your team's playing on the year. And it's going to be like every Champion Cup every year. If they make the playoffs, it's going to be that. I think it's the top 18 teams, right? Something like that for MLS. It's all the playoff teams. If you make the playoffs, you make the Leagues Cup, and you take the Mexican League teams. So that's more eyeballs. Get the rivalries going there. Then the champion, get the Champions League. That's going to be another competition with all of CONCACAF. We'll talk more about FIFA next week because I have incomplete thoughts. I want to sit on those for another week. But this didn't mean to be a Don Garber glazing podcast today. Rapid Rant on Mountain Time Sports Report on YouTube and Twitch. But it kind of did. It turned out to be that, because there's been positive and negatives. And as I said, that the whole messy thing is the success of this is, and I don't know if Garber learned from his mistakes, because he was playing, he was in the NFL Europe League. He was responsible for that for a little bit before coming over to MLS. So, he's been a soccer fan since then, and he's the soccer leagues over there, and they did a little differently here. And I was looking for my book, and I couldn't find it. Major League Goals, which was written right when the MLS started, and I had to go look for it. I have incomplete thoughts about that, but I was going to compare it to what the league looks like today. So, and I got that going. So, but incomplete, as I said. But promotion relegation is one of the things they didn't want then. 30 years later, hasn't changed. Other things, changing the calendar, obviously different. And if it wasn't for the owners being so selfish back then and the owners today. But maybe there was no TV. TV was in its infancy, and maybe that's the difference between the NASL and the MLS and Pele and Messi. So, where the league goes for today, and obviously Messi is signed for the next couple of years. So we'll see if he plays out the string in the United States. Obviously, Miami scored another huge free agent signing in Casemiro. And by the way, genius move by MLS to, and here I go again. They scheduled all the games after the World Cup for a month in Miami, so Messi can take a break, and good for him. He needs a break after all that in the all the games they play. They play 8 games, the maximum amount you could play in a World Cup. Argentina did, of course, and he needs a break. And so all the games in Miami, all the people there, they've seen him. There'll be more options for those fans to see Messi even more in their new stadium down there in Florida, in South Florida. So let Messi have a couple of weeks off. He might. I could see him playing against Lyon in the Leagues Cup, and maybe a couple of those playoff matchups when Miami goes there. And then mid-August, of course, Miami gets to play Nashville. So it'll be number 1, number 2 in the East. And that is right before the Kansas City game. So I'll be watching that on my phone up in the press box that day, watching that game, because that's going to be probably a playoff matchup too for MLS Cup 2026. One more interesting story about that movie and Pele coming to the United States back in the 70s, and them playing actually ironically playing in the Meadowlands. And I know it's a different stadium from where the World Cup final was held at MetLife, but it was the movie Once in a Lifetime. Pele coming to the United States in the NASL, and them obviously failing before the MLS came after the '94 World Cup. And I think the MLS is going to have a bounce, obviously, wherever Miami goes for the rest of the year, probably even next year. But so it was my wife and I, we just celebrated our 20th anniversary here a couple weeks ago. And one of our first dates, we met 20 years in a couple months. And one of our first dates was actually go into that movie at the Chez Artistes Theater, which is no longer around, off of Colorado and Hampton. And we went to that movie theater. And the reason I knew she really liked me, my wife, she didn't just like me, she liked me, is it was we didn't know it was the last night that movie was playing at the Chez Artistes. And she got the poster for me, and she gave it to me later. And I was just talking up the soccer movie, and I got her to go to a sports movie, one of our first dates, and then she actually got the poster for me, and I have it. It's on a wall and by the way, she lets me put that in the living room. So that's the other thing. She lets me put a sports poster in the living room, and it's a fun. But it was from our first dates, one of our first dates. So that's a fun reminder of that 20 years later. And we watched basically a movie about soccer and politics. So I knew she liked me after that, right? 20 years later, here we are, still liking soccer, still loving soccer. And she graciously let me take some of our entertainment budget and go to Kansas City this year. So also fun. But the wife will be choosing our vacations for the foreseeable future for that one. All right. 20 years. We did celebrate it. Heck of a time. Thanks for listening to Rapid Rant. I had a story for you. Now that we're talking about old stuff from the mid-1900s, maybe 1800s, I went to the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City, right next to the Jazz Museum. It's all in the same complex there, downtown, old downtown Kansas. I forget what it's called, Vine Street neighborhood. And it occurred to me, I've seen the movies they played there before, and watching just going through seeing the exhibits, and I noticed something like, the sports leagues really started after the Civil War, and what was Major League Baseball, the American League, Baltimore Orioles, and all those teams there, and it just occurred to me like it was all very positive after the Civil War. It was all very, heal the nation and and being well and just everybody's in it for everybody, and it kind of mirrored the way the Jim Crow laws happened, and then obviously civil rights and Jackie Robinson coming and the Negro, they started the earliest ones are 1880s, 1890s, and then obviously Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby, Satchel Paige didn't come until mid 40s, late 40s. So it's just weird how they separated it and the because they were playing together in like the 1800s, and then they separated and they came back eventually in the 40s and 50s, and I just thought that was interesting the way that attitude of the nation happened like that, and it just occurred to me, I'm like, I don't think the Yankees would have 27 championships if they integrated the leagues in the early 1900s, but then I thought, well, any chance to take a shot at the New York Yankees fans, and sorry, Casey, one of my good friends who, but if all you tell me is 27, and it occurred to me in the middle of this, really, yeah, you won 27, but should it all count? Whatever. But they did integrate also the stats from those players into all Major League Baseball stats, which I don't know, whatever that means. So, and then the other thing I noticed from there was they had a short, maybe 12-minute film about the press, and really that was the really beginning, and obviously because the people can say it, and that be one thing, but when you go in the press and those guys, the columnists and the editorializing that those guys did about integrating it, and they actually called out the commissioner in some big publications in newspapers when newspapers were at their peak on, hey, why aren't these black players playing in the major leagues? And it was really big guys, and to see them and the press, calling people out and going after them for that, it made me happy, and I'm like, why can't we do that today? But that's enough politics for me today. So once again, that's just a story that doesn't have anything to do about soccer, but was a part of my World Cup experience for sure down there, and I learned a lot, and it was just fun, man. And then that night we went to that was the day we went to because the game Algeria, versus Austria didn't happen until 9 p.m. So we were there doing that in the morning before the late night game in Kansas City, Missouri at Arrowhead Stadium. So that was fun. But let's get back to soccer. Austin FC, the tree, which is their crest. There's a tree in their crest. Maybe a playoff they'll try for Mexico, but I don't know. They're okay. I like their design too as well, for whatever that means. But I am Don Pablo. And did I go on a little rant there? Yes. But I also had another short rant because I feel like the Rapids rant that you're listening to right now, I just need to go on a rant, a little one. It's not going to be that long. I promise. Also, it doesn't have anything to do about soccer. I'm at the gym. I'm in the steam room. The guy comes in with fully clothed, and which is fine, fully clothed. In some ways, I'd rather have you fully clothed. But why are we wearing shoes? Why are we wearing shoes in the pool, basically? Why are we wearing shoes in the wet room, in the whirlpool, in the sauna, in the studio? Why are we wearing shoes, man? Like, I'm not talking about flip-flops or shower shoes or even Crocs, which are easily cleanable, but like sneakers / tennis shoes, So why are we wearing all that in there? We don't have to. In fact, I think it's worse because it's gonna A, smell up everywhere else you go. B, it's gonna make your athlete's foot problem worse because it's just sitting in there, baking in this sweat sock situation. But what's a better way to clean your feet than go into the shower and use the soap and all that? Although I understand that spreading. If you got a foot odor issue, let's clean the feet at home and then put on some flip flops, man. Anyway, we don't need to wear the entire clothes, rain poncho jacket, sweatsuit situation up in the steam room. Like, let's wear some towels. I'm 43 years old. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just, I'd rather have less fungus around, less diseases, and you're already gonna smell. It's smelly in there, obviously, except for the guys that throw the eucalyptus oil / sometimes they put lavender oil. I can't believe I'm talking about that. So don't wear your shoes. Shoes are not needed. Wear shower shoes or flip flops or like, get out of here with and it's gonna make it smell worse. Whatever. Just, it's a public service announcement. I'm trying to help people, man. And I talked to my wife, and she goes in there, and she's like, because I was complaining to her about naked guys in there, and I'm like, I don't. Why do we need the light on in the steam room? We don't need the light on in the steam. What do we need to see? We could talk. There's enough light. But she's like, yeah, the women's side, they just wear swimsuits, and they're very pleasant. And I'm like, I don't know this life. Been in locker rooms a lot. I don't. Wear some flip flops. Wear something. Like, you don't have fungus, wear flip flops, right? Or you have fungus, wear flip flops or Crocs or showers. Anyway, and by the way, there's a sign that says no shoes in the wet areas, and specifically no tennis shoes or sneakers, and they're just blatantly not following the directions. That's it. Just look. I'm a more spirit of the rules than letter of the law guy. I'm more spirit of the law guy, but this one's that's letter of the law. No sneakers in the wet area, as they call it, and definitely in the pool. Just saying. All right. Well, I think that does it for me ahead of Austin FC visiting the Colorado Rapids this weekend on Colorado Day. 150 years of Colorado being a state. Let's hope we can get to 150 more. The Rapids versus Austin, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time here in Commerce City, close to Denver, Colorado, and the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. Talk about rebranding next week, since I had enough political big picture of MLS talk so far. Go Rapids if you